Hi, my name is Philippa Stewart and I'd like to introduce to you my collection of bespoke wallpapers named Tudor Candy. First, I'd like to start off with what pattern means to me. Fundamentally, pattern is an artistic arrangement depicting rhythm and movement, but it also means to me pattern kind of functions as depicting a narrative, depicting a story, whether it is in tapestry or in murals. And it's this kind of narrative that I hope to capture within my own work. The initial ideas for my design work, for my collection, originates from three historically significant places, significant to the West Midlands and also to my childhood. These three places are Whittick Manor, situated in Wolverhampton, Boscobel House and also Moseley Old Hall. This collection as a whole is a response to my own childhood connections. I didn't want to create pattern for the sake of pattern. I wanted to create something that was more emotionally charged and in doing so something that becomes more artistic and hopefully achieves transcendence. I will now talk you through my design work. Aesthetically, I wanted my designs to radiate beauty within the room without being invasive. I wanted my designs to create the feeling of space and depth. So whether the design was used in a small room or a large room, it would create impact. The first design is called Tudor Home, and this is based upon my visit to Whittick Manor. Whittick Manor is a Victorian manor house and is one of the last few surviving examples of houses built during the arts and crafts movement. Whittick Manor is significant to me because it is situated literally 10 minutes away from my home, and it is originally owned by the Mander family, who were a very important family to my hometown. Design number 2 is Whittick, and it has a more grid-like structure to it than the previous design. This was also based on the architectural details of Whittick Manor. The most noticeable thing about Whittick Manor upon arrival is the Tudor revival style of the exterior. Design 3 is Boscobel, and this was based upon my visit to Boscobel House. Foliage creates a contrast to the architectural backdrop of this print. This was inspired by my love of tartan, and if you refer to my mood board, you'll see there is a sample of tartan there. This connection is from my references of Charles II and the House of Stuart, and being a Stuart myself, we have our own family tartan, and this has always influenced me in terms of the composition of my prints. Design number 4 is Stowaway, and is basically inspired by the story surrounding Boscobel House. Boscobel is famous for its role in the escape of Charles II from Oliver Cromwell after the Battle of Worcester in 1651. He initially travelled to Boscobel House, and en route, while being chased by Cromwell's soldiers, he hid up a tree which is now referred to as the Royal Oak, and descendants of this particular tree still survives today and is currently restored on the land of Boscobel House. The layout of this design is inspired by the tiles that I saw within one of the bedrooms of Boscobel. Design number 5 is the Royal Oak, and in reference to the tree I've just mentioned of Charles II and his escape from Cromwell, this print is inspired by the tree itself. I wanted to create a print that pays homage to all the beautiful and old textiles that I saw throughout my visits, particularly of Whitwick Manor and Boscobel House. I really like the concept of bringing the outside in. I wanted my designs to have quite a naturalistic feel. I also really like the contrast of nature with architecture, and so you'll have a lot of painterly-like images contrasted with a grid-like structure. Design number 6 is called Pretty Creepers, and this was based upon photos that I took outside of Boscobel. Pretty Creepers was inspired by visuals taken of plant life and vines growing up one of the farm walls just next to Boscobel House. Design number 7 is Tudor Trellis, and this has a more grid-like feel to the design. This was inspired by all 3 trips, and in particular some of the photos that I took of one of the barns on the site of Boscobel House. The grid-like composition provides a more contemporary edge. I feel the nature of this design is very versatile, in the sense that it could suit any room of an interior. Design 8 is Reflections. Reflections is the only photographic print within the collection. This is because I wanted Tudor Candy to cover a range of styles that appeal to different tastes. The photos are taken from the grounds of Whitwick Manor, and the inspiration for using reflections was from some of the works of David Hockney. The mark making and subtle textures within reflections make for a very fantasy orientated landscape, and this relates to the idea of creating wallpaper which inspires a form of escapism. Design number 9 is Stained Glass Monarchs. This print is very playful and quite tongue-in-cheek, and would perhaps appeal to a younger target audience, say a child's bedroom or a playroom. The design uses Henry VIII and Queen Elizabeth I and Charles II because these kings and queens refer to the 3 integral historical places within this collection. For example, Charles II is greatly associated with Boscobel House, and even though Whitwick Manor is Victorian, the mock Tudor revival really reminded me of the times and the era of Henry VIII, as well as the Elizabethan period of Queen Elizabeth. And finally, design number 10 is Window Knots. As you can see from first look, the style is somewhat different to the rest of this collection. It has a very clean and very geometric finish. The inspiration behind this print is taken from the knot gardens of Moseley Old Hall. I was able to view these knot gardens through the windows of Moseley Old Hall from the top bedrooms, and I wanted to capture this amazing visual within a more simplistic print. At the back of my 2D work you will see a proposal sheet. This is to propose that if any of my designs were selected for the New Wave collection, that a certain percentage of the royalties are to be donated to the English Heritage Foundation. After some research, I discovered that their fundings have been cut considerably, and they rely mainly on membership and selling properties and fundraising. I feel the creative process of this project has definitely challenged me as a designer. Coming from a fashion and textiles background, regarding print, the fabrics and the textiles I'm using usually inspire the type of print that I create, as well as the garment pattern and construction. However, when designing for wallpapers, I find that I'm having to contend with the idea of handling space and achieving depth and even ambience within an interior. In terms of surface finish, I wanted these designs to be produced in a matte-like finish, and also on double width wallpaper. This is because throughout all my in-situs I have suggested these designs as accent walls, rather than covering all the walls within a room to perhaps achieve the sense of space by only decorating one wall. It also suggests something more artistic as well, to create something which has a more mural-like quality. This is my attempt to push the boundaries of wallpaper, to give it a new dimension, to make it a focal point and a talking point within a room rather than just being taken for granted. I can only hope that places like Boscobel House continue to tell their stories, and I hope that these places inspire future generations as much as they've inspired me as a designer. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the Tudor Candy wallpaper collection.